Nation podcast, Monday, October 18th. It is not a victory Monday, but man, do we have a lot to talk about today. The Bears lose to the Packers 24-14 in an absolute just street fight of a game. But we're going to talk about it. Myself, Jake Hassan, joined as always by Kevin Lapka. Kevin, I tried to tell you, man. I tried to tell you.
You warned me.
I hate that I'm right, but I tried to tell you.
You're right. You tried to tell me. I didn't listen, as I typically don't. When it comes to these things, you get your hopes up, and rightfully so. Every Bears fan, again, it seemingly happens every year. You have a reason to get your hopes up before this game. Before the Packers game last year, it was the return of Mitch, the playoff push. You got your hopes up. You got demolished last year. This year, it's okay. Justin Fields is here. We have Bill Lazor, play caller. You won 2 in a row. You beat the Raiders. Momentum's there. You got your hopes up. It seems to happen always at the most inopportune times. And, what we're left with is the feeling that we're left with every single year. And this year particularly hurts more because of some words that were said on the broadcast that we don't have to repeat here on this show, because I'm sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of, seeing it all over social media. Rodgers owns the Bears, all that. Okay, you own as many NFC championships as Rex Grossman. That's what you own, buddy. So, he's not wrong, if I'm being honest. He's not wrong.
Here's the thing. I don't have a problem with him saying that, because he's right. Like, he's completely correct.
Right.
Like, there's never been more.
It feels like shit.
Right. It just well, then that's why it sucks, because he's right, and we have to just sit there and take it, because
you gotta take it.
There's nothing you can say. He's right.
There's very limited clapbacks,
right.
Very limited things that you could say other than what I said about Rex Grossman, same on NFC championships. But even then, it doesn't really, the dude has owned you, and it's just the same thing every year. But that's where, this year is a little bit different, though, because I don't look at this game and say, oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers owned you in this game. He's the reason you lost. That's not the way, as we break this down here, we break down this, 24-14 loss. That's not the way I interpret this game. It wasn't Aaron Rodgers, just stuck a dagger in you all game. He made the final play. That was the dagger. But this game was not Aaron Rodgers picking you apart. Did he play well? Yes. Did he have a, 120 pass rating? Yes. But you don't take away from this game the fact that Aaron Rodgers was too good for you on Sunday. And that's what I think the bottom line is as we break down the rest of this game.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It was just an absolute street fight of a game, because really, and this is kind of why it stings a little more, you were in that game for most, if not all of it, until the very end, until, that last drive by the Packers where they scored a touchdown. You couldn't hold them to a field goal. You were in it the entire time, and that's why it sucks. It was a low-scoring game. Rodgers doesn't even clear 200 yards. Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns by himself. He basically was the offense, but that's not as bad as years previously, where, like you said, where he absolutely torches you and he's throwing down the field, and and he's getting everything he wants. It wasn't that at all. You sacked him a couple times, you made him uncomfortable a couple times. There was one really big play, the Devontae Adams catch for 40 yards, but other than that, there's been more back-breaking plays in this history, in the recent history especially, of this rivalry, if you can call it a rivalry anymore. It's pretty one-sided, but even that, usually you get 2-3 of those a game. There were mistakes by the Bears offense. A couple of them, you got bailed out by penalties a couple times, but we'll get into that. But you're right. Rodgers doesn't torch you. He doesn't beat you all on his own. As much as usually, he doesn't beat you into the ground. He doesn't demoralize you. It was a game you were in, and that's why it sucks even more, because feels like if you played a little better, if you played a little bit better, you would have had a real shot at winning that game. And that's why it is so. It's almost worse than last year, when you just got the break speed off you, because if in those games it was evident, by halftime, I would say, that you weren't going to win those games, that things were going to get out of hand, and that you could go turn something else on. This game, you were watching it the entire time. The entire time you were watching this game, thinking that you had a shot to win it, or to tie it, or to make it, push it to overtime even. The entire time, like I've been saying, you were in it, and you had a shot until, probably about halfway through the fourth quarter. And even then, it was still felt like okay, a couple of things are going to have to go your way, and you're going to have to get really lucky, but there is still a shot, even though it was a 2-score game.
Well, I think why it hurts more is because you're losing in different ways. Like in the past, it was okay. You're simply not good enough to compete with this team. Aaron Rodgers
Sure.
is simply too good. You know that by the end of the first quarter, you're simply not good enough. You can come to terms with that and move on. But now, this is a situation where you're good enough to beat this team, like from a talent aspect, from a few things going your way, you making less mistakes, doing the right things in certain
Mhm.
areas. You're talented enough to beat that team. You have the capability to do it. And it hurts more because things have changed now. Bill Lazor's the play caller. Justin Fields is the quarterback. This was the point to where
Was he yesterday though?
I
There
see,
was some stuff
Jake,
that
I'm not entirely sure, man. I'm really not. I mean, there was some stuff. I mean, the play calling was bad. I'm not gonna
yeah.
sugarcoat it. Look, I I feel bad because I feel like I on this show, once Bill Lazor became the play caller, made him out to be a hero, to whereas he would be the saving grace of the Chicago Bears, where everything
Mhm.
would change. And rightfully so, it felt that way because I still think the drop off between Lazor and Nagy is significant enough to warrant that type of thinking. But
Mhm.
now you take the drop off from Bill Lazor to Sean McVay, that's even more significant drop off from Bill Lazor to Matt Nagy. So, like, even if it was Bill Lazor, Jake, it's not good enough. It's not. It's not special. It's not different, and it's not anything that's going to get you anywhere remotely close to being the type of offense you want, regardless of the play caller, regardless of the personnel, the coaching staff in general. Because now we can label it as not just Nagy. You can include Bill Lazor under that, umbrella. I think it's just not good enough, and that's going back to the point of why it hurts more. Is this was the ultimate this was the penultimate game where it was supposed to change, where it was supposed to be.
Mhm.
This was the litmus test. This was the litmus test, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
had the new quarterback, you got the different play caller. This is where all those changes that you made were supposed to come to fruition. We're supposed to see the effect of those changes, right? And what was the result? Same old shit. That's why it hurts more, is because this is what my prediction was: changing of the guard, new king of the
Mhm.
north. This is where we find out why the Bears are going to be the best team in the North for the next 10 years as long as Justin Fields is there. And this isn't an indictment on Justin Fields right now. We're going to get into that. I have no problems with the way he played. It's just the reason why this, Monday feels a whole heck of a lot worse than Mondays against the Packers that you've endured in the past.
Yeah. So I wanted to say something about the play calling too. Against the Raiders and against the Lions, it felt like it was 95% Lazor. Maybe Nagy got a couple in there. It felt way more 50-50 yesterday. It
Sure.
felt way
Yeah.
more. I mean, it probably wasn't. It was probably Lazor 70%. You would hope, maybe 80, but there was definitely some Nagy sprinkled in there. You saw him a couple times with that sheet, and it sure looked like he was having some say into what was happening on offense. They showed him a couple times, walking the sideline with his mouth covered. So I,
Is it
I
even
mean,
possible though for it to be like a 70-30 thing? Because I'm just thinking about
I
how
don't
that
see
would
why
play
not.
out. Like you say, "Oh, I'm going to call this play." You tell Bill on the headset, "Hey, I'm going to call this one." It just seems weird that would be the case. I mean, I don't outrule anything when it comes to Matt Nagy,
Right.
but just that sort of ideology would be interesting if that was actually the case.
I mean, regardless, though, he definitely, because I mean, we saw it even against the Raiders and the Lions, where it was like, okay, it looked like a Nagy play, and it looked like something
Yeah,
maybe he had but there were way more this time,
right.
is what I mean. Like there was way more. I mean, we saw the returns of the screens. Don't know
Yeah.
what that was about. I mean, there was. And granted, I mean, we were right about a couple things. Allen Robinson had, a good game. He was your leading receiver. Cole Kmet actually had a decent game too. Darnell Mooney
Mm-hmm.
continues to do what he does with Justin Fields. Khalil Herbert continues to be awesome, but
Stud.
it wasn't enough at the end of the day, and you just didn't get enough of those opportunities. You said something that I want to point out. You said Justin Fields played well. There were some
I
decision
didn't.
making.
Yeah, I
There
shouldn't
was
have
some
said well.
decision making
Yeah.
by Justin Fields yesterday, that really was something we have not seen from him. Yes, usually he's cool and collected, and it was just a general lack of awareness of this. The two heaves down the field.
Well, okay.
One was an
First
interception
one's not
that
on
got
him.
negated.
The
The
first
other,
one's not on
well,
him.
they were free. I mean, those
The
were
free
Mitch
play.
Trubisky throws, Kevin.
But
Those
that's
were
okay.
Mitch
So
Trubisky
there's
throws.
two, and he said, and they talked about this in the post game press conference. I mean, the two guys, there's a neutral zone infraction. It's textbook neutral zone infraction. Now, they asked Matt Nagy, should the quarterback be looking for the flag on the ground because the flag never came down.
Right.
He probably noticed the neutral zone infraction.
Right.
He never saw the flag. He said, quarterbacks you don't really have the time, and you don't have the time to look for a flag. You don't know where the flag is going to be. But the other thing, too, that I understand is why is Allen Robinson quitting on the route? I mean, that is clearly a post route to the end zone to Allen Robinson. He just stops and turns. And Matt Nagy gave some sort of explanation for why he stopped. I don't know why he stopped. I mean, I don't know if it would have been a completion if not, but that's why he threw that ball. It's free play. Let's take that shot. We have Allen Robinson on a deep post. He did, or I think it was a corner. I don't remember. He didn't run it. And so I don't have any issues with that. But what's the second heave you're referencing that you didn't like?
There was a second. It was the same play. It was an interception that wasn't an interception.
Amos, was that the Amos one?
That he stepped out. That he stepped out of bounds.
Right.
And it was incomplete. I said it was a penalty earlier. I was incorrect on that. But I mean, that one too was just nobody around, and just I don't know what the hell is going on there. But there was nobody around. It was like I said, it was a Mitch Trubisky thing. Like that was a Mitch Trubisky throw. Maybe it was, maybe it was a Allen Robinson quit on the play, but still, I mean, that one there was no whistles, no flags, nothing. Right. So I don't know what happened there. There were a couple times though too. Speaking of penalties, the neutral zone infraction that wasn't called. There were a couple other penalties that just straight up were not called. That should have gone the Bears' way, which made no sense. But yeah, I mean, end of the day, the play calling wasn't good enough. Allen Robinson quitting on routes you can't have that. Akeem Hicks leaving the game was a killer for you too. I mean, that really, your defense still played decently, but still we've talked about what he means. And when he goes out mid-game like that, and then you have to adjust on the fly, we've seen that this team isn't the best at making in-game adjustments. So that wasn't great. I mean, you needed this, and you needed this game. You needed the game. You needed a win here because
you needed the win. I thought you
were No. That you didn't need to have this game. You absolutely didn't. You had that game against Cleveland. That was supposed to be your wake-up call. You needed this win because we've talked about the gauntlet that you're about to go through. Because guess what? You just, you lost another rivalry game against the Packers. You let Aaron Rodgers be right and say on national TV that he owns you to your fans and be right. And now guess what you get to follow that up as redemption? A game against the Buccaneers in Tampa Bay and a revenge spot for the Bucs because they're pissed about last year when Tom Brady didn't know the play and didn't know the down and you got lucky, kind of, it felt like. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then after that, you get, here come the Niners and the Ravens and the Steelers and, so on and so on and so on. An absolute gauntlet. And so you got to figure it out because, even just looking at Tampa Bay, and we'll talk about it on Wednesday more, obviously, but they're a team that's probably, they're going to go on a deep playoff run again. And so, this was supposed to be the litmus test. What do you think Tampa is? In Tampa, you were at home too.
Well, here's the thing too. So, people are probably going to say what I might say is, we locked down Tampa last year, right? We shut them down last year. And why can't we do that again? Well, let me tell you, and this goes back to my line of thinking from early on in the season that I've kind of, rolled back a little bit, but now I'm fully back on it. Because you look last week or this past week against Packers, okay? The defense did enough to win you this game. They did. They did enough to win you. Tackling need to be better for sure. But, what I've said all year is, and I've been proven wrong about it, you can't, and this is the key word now about this conversation, consistently win the way they want to win. You can pull off low-scoring wins throughout the year. They've done it against the Raiders. They did it against Cincinnati, against the Lions. Those are all low-scoring wins. You can do it without a doubt. But not every week is the defense going to prevent the opponent from scoring that final drive. You know what I mean? Like that one Aaron Rodgers play. Now, every week is the defense going to get multiple fumbles and turnovers. It's not consistent enough for you to rely on it. And this is a league characterized by offense, and you will not be shit in this league until you can prove that when the defense has a bad game, which is inevitable no matter how good your defense is. And for the Bears, it seemingly is just 24 points for us to say that's too much. That's too much for our offense. You can overcome that, though, if you have a good offense. And Justin, our EP's got a clip in the back that I clipped from Chris Sims on his podcast this week. I want to play this clip, and I want the listeners to hear what Chris Sims, although people aren't too happy with him based off of what he has evaluated about Justin Fields, he does have really good analysis. This is from Unbuttoned Podcast. Listen to what he has to say about today's offense.
Hey, the old adage of like defense wins championship, that shit's gone. It's 2021. Get the fuck out of here with that crap. It doesn't matter anymore. If your defense is just middle of the road, that's fine. You can win championships with the way the rules are set up and how good these guys are on the offensive side of the ball. So, yes, with the way – and, the other thing you have to take into account is even if their defense is overmatched, they have the ability to be like, oh, let's slow it down and run the ball if it ever came to that.
There you have it. I've been saying this. Look, as a Chicago Bears fan, you don't want to admit that. You're right. I mean, defense wins championships. We made a T-shirt about it last year, man. We made a fucking T-shirt with Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson on defense wins championships. Sure, you love it. Not anymore. This is 2021. It cannot be done. And the problem is each and every game, including this one against the Packers, they still played it to that ideology. I mean, the play calling is evident in that way. You're not going to beat these teams anymore. Watch the Cowboys, watch the Bills, the Bucks, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Ravens, hell, even the fucking Raiders. When these teams go down 14 or have a bad day on defense, it's no big deal. Because the offense is going to go right. If the opponent scores 7 points, the offense goes right down the field and scores 7 more, back to even, fresh start. It's like a new game when that happens. When the Bears go down 10 points, when the Bears go down 10-7 against the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, it's game over. I had about 5% faith when we went down 10-7 that they would win that game. I thought it was a chance. You're only down 3 points, but you knew in the back of your mind they weren't going to freaking win that game. You know what I mean? And this, like, yeah. I know this is, I sound redundant and I'm, I sound like a broken record here, but and this is what I talk about with the same old shit, man. It's the same old shit. You have a new play caller, you have a new quarterback, you have the makings of an offense to be that offense, like the Bucks, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Rams, the Chargers, not quite in that echelon, but that ideology of we can win games with offense, and it's still not happening. Which means you can the coach, you can the whole staff, and you start something new, because no matter who it is calling the plays, no matter who it is at the helm, it's not what it has to be in the year 2021 of the NFL. Simple as that.
And it's insane that we're saying that a game in which you gave up 24 points is a bad game for the defense. It is insane that we're saying a bad night for the Chiefs defense or for the Raiders defense is 30 plus, is 35 plus. A bad night for the Ravens defense is in the 30s. Like, that's insane that we're sitting here on Monday afternoon and saying, oh, you gave up 24 points. Not good enough. Bad night for your defense. That's crazy. And that speaks to the standard that we hold this defense, because that's what they've built themselves up to be. But I mean, just look at the scores you've thrown up this year. Week 1 against the Rams, 14 points. Week 2 against the Bengals, 20. Week 3 against the Browns, 6. Week 4 against the Lions, 24. Week 5 against the Raiders, 20. And then obviously yesterday, 14. It is nuts that you haven't cracked 25 points once. It is crazy that the same amount of points that the Packers scored yesterday is your highest total. And we're saying that was a bad game for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. We're saying that's a bad game for them. 24 points. That's crazy. A team that has Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams and a bunch of other weapons that Aaron Rodgers uses very effectively. They scored 24 points. That's a bad day for them. And it's also your highest total of the year that you've scored. It matches what you've scored as your highest total this year. 24 points. It's crazy. It's insane.
And like, are you going to sit here and tell me that Davis Mills or Daniel Jones are better quarterbacks than Justin Fields? All of these guys who have more yards, who have higher completion percentages, who have thrown for more touchdowns than Justin Fields, are they better, more talented than him? No, not one person would tell you that. You take 1,000 people in a sample survey and say you can choose Justin Fields or Davis Mills for the next 5 years. Who you taking? All 1,000 of them are taking Justin Fields over long neck Davis Mills. This is about offensive game plan. And what was evident more than ever in this past game was the lack of wide receiver separation. Yes, like part of that has to do with, your receivers getting open for sure. Like definitely, like Allen Robinson's second to last in the NFL according to Next Gen Stats and receiver separation. But receiver separation isn't always a metric that determines how good you are. Like Jamar Chase is like fifth to last, and he's one of the best wide receivers right now in the NFL, arguably rookie of the year. That's not necessarily what that means. What that means is you're not scheming guys open. And the play that stands out to me is the final play of the game, 4th and 26 yes, 4th and 26. That's when Justin took the sack to end the game, right?
Yes.
You watch what happened. If you go back and watch that play, and I forget who the analyst was. Was it Greg? Who was on the broadcast this week?
It was Olsen.
Olsen. He broke down that play, and what you see why Justin Fields took the sack is there's three. I think there was 3 receivers running routes. One of them is Allen Robinson running like a go route on the right side, and then you got Darnell Mooney and whoever it was on the other side running like a deep in and like a deep post. And by the time Justin Fields breaks the pocket and is being chased by a defender, not one of the receivers has their head turned to the quarterback. So what's Justin supposed to do? What's he supposed to do? I mean, it's 4th and 26. What's he going to throw it away? No, you turn it over that way. What's he going to try to run 26 yards for the first down? No, that's not going to happen unless you're.
He almost tried.
He almost tried. I mean, but exactly. And the reason why he almost tried is because that's all he could do, because not a single receiver had his head to the ball. And again, that's not the receiver's fault. Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson, whoever the third guy was, Marquise Goodwin maybe, are running the routes that they were asked to run, that the play was designed for them to run. The question is, why are you running a play that has 3 routes going 20-plus yards to where when Justin Fields needs to make a throw because the pocket's collapsing, he has nobody to throw it to? The concepts are terrible. The game planning, the play design is terrible. That's to me is more of an explanation of why you see lack of separation than is pure talent from the receivers. Because you're sitting here and telling me Allen Robinson doesn't know how to get a separation from a cornerback. Watch the fucking tape. Everybody in the world could say that's not the case. Darnell Mooney gets like 8 yards of cushion. He leads the NFL in cushion, meaning cornerbacks are 8 yards off the line from him. He has separation from the inception of the play. He doesn't have to create it because it's already there. It has to do with play design. It has to do with scheme. That's the reason why you watch even Green Bay. Why is Allen Lazard open in the middle of a field with not a defender within 8 yards of him? Is it because Allen Lazard is better than Allen Robinson? No, it's because they can scheme plays to get those guys open. That is the bottom line, because I just want to point that out, because there's a heck of a lot of people who are saying the receivers aren't getting separation. Trade Allen Robinson, trade Darnell Mooney, bring in a whole new cast and crew because they can't get separation. No, it's play design that causes that, not the receivers.
No, I agree with that. You mentioned something, Lazard. The middle of the field was open all day for the Packers. I mean, they were getting. I mean, Mercedes Lewis had a huge play for first down. And like when you're talking about Mercedes Lewis, I didn't even know that guy was still in the league, let alone making plays to beat you. But I do want to address something. If there was someone, because it was 4th and 26, like if someone had been wasted doing a slant route over the field and it would have been short, then we would have been blowing that up and ripping apart that decision too. I do think there was no way that we would be happy with how that played out unless it got a first down somehow. So I think regardless, we would have found something to be upset about. I was honestly, for a second, when Justin Fields spun away and before his knee touched, I really thought he was about to break away, take like a Russell Wilson step back as the defenders are starting to get up from trying to sack him, and heave something down the field and make something out of nothing. It really felt like that was something that was about to happen. Obviously didn't, but yeah, I mean, just it was crushing. It was because the thing is, you started to play worse as the game went on. Like as it was getting evident that you might have a chance, that you were just playing worse. Because you opened with a touchdown drive. You opened, you had the ball.
That drive looked real good.
And you looked great. You had a couple really nice throws from Justin Fields. He started like 4 for 4 for 30-something yards. Looked great. Khalil Herbert was getting whatever he wanted. It was awesome. And then all just fell apart. I mean, even when you needed a field goal, there was no plan. You were of course, in a time when you could have been running the ball, you're throwing the ball. How does that make sense? I mean, there were a couple times this team for the last 3 weeks has been run. And in this moment, for some reason, I don't know if you felt like you had something to prove to Aaron Rodgers. You felt like you had to, like you mentioned last week, do that changing the guard and throw the ball and show that you had a quarterback when you only needed a couple yards and you have someone in Khalil Herbert who's running well. I still think the offensive line played decently still. And you got nothing. And even Justin Fields had his most effective day as a runner. He had 43 yards on 6 carries. Like, and he didn't do it. And that's something that's worked for you all year, no matter who's at running back, whether it be Dave Montgomery or Damian Williams or Khalil Herbert. The run's been there for you all year, and you didn't use it when you only needed a couple yards. Even a couple times on like 3rd and short, and you were throwing the ball. Why are we changing what we're doing on offense? I said this last week. That's your identity. Run the ball and pass. And this, Kevin, I said this last week. It's exactly what I was afraid of. You were going to feel like you had something to prove.
Mm-hmm.
It's Aaron Rodgers. It's rivalry week. All right, we're going to show that we have a quarterback. Stupid. So stupid. Run the ball. I said this last week. That was your identity. And people in the comments are saying, "Oh, we got to throw it and we got to score on them." And look what happened. Look what happened when you tried to get too pass happy. You stick with what works. I said that so much last week. Stick with what works, and you didn't. And you paid for it. And I don't know if it's because you were worried about fumbles with 2 rookies or what the deal was, but my God, you had something that's been working all year, no matter who's at the running back. Even when the offensive line was playing like crap, you still had a decent running game all year, and you didn't use it. And what are we doing here? I do think I've been saying all year that I think as long as Matt Nagy gets them to the playoffs or even is around 500, that they'll bring him back. I think if you get swept by the Packers and you don't make the playoffs, I think there's a serious chance he gets fired.
I think because at this point,
because there was no comment. He only has one. Yeah, we have been. He's only had 1 win against the Packers, and we're on year 4 now, 3, 4. What I've lost count. Where the hell are we? But regardless, you've got 1 win against the Packers. It's supposed to be your Super Bowl because God knows you can't make actual Super Bowls. So these games against the Packers are supposed to be your big games. And, the ones that even if you don't make the playoffs, you walk away and say, all right, well, we beat the Packers, can feel good about that. You've done that once. You've done that once in the Matt Nagy era. And if you get swept by them again this year and you still don't make the playoffs, I think you would have to lose maybe to the Vikings once too, maybe split with them. But regardless, I mean, something's got to change.
Part of me thought he was going to get fired on Monday because
somebody actually just brought up a good point that I did want to get back to. The timeout that wasn't called. That was insane. I don't understand. That was crazy.
I just don't get it. I've never seen that before. I've never seen it.
And that might be why you started to play worse as the game went on, because that was demoralizing stuff.
Yeah, I would like to see that replay, though, because it looked like Fields was trying to get the timeout after the zeros. They never showed where the clock was. They just showed him doing the timeouts. I think if you look back, he was at 0, and the ref's like, you called it too late.
Maybe. Even in real time, I thought that he got it in time, but still, I mean, yeah, that might have been something that just we didn't see. But even that, I mean, because you saw the look of disgust on Justin Fields' face, like that that it didn't get called or they didn't get it in time. Demoralizing. The non-call penalty, demoralizing. It's wild. So anyway, I did forget about that. So shout out to Jeffrey Glover in the comments for bringing that back up because I had forgotten about that. But yeah, I mean, end of the day, back to this Matt Nagy thing. I do think, and we'll probably switch once. I mean, because you're at 500, so like, I don't know. This team is just so frustrating. I mean, just that old bitch Virginia. She won't do anything. God knows it.
It is so hard to be a fan of this team, man. It is so freaking hard. But like that, and that's why it goes back to the whole, everything was supposed to change. This was supposed to be it, and the litmus test, and that's the way the organization should have seen it too. I mean, really, that's the way they should have seen it, and that's why I thought there was a legitimate shot that he got fired on. Really, we see firings happen all the time, but internally, if you can't beat, and this is what the organization has said in the past is, we bring in head coaches to beat the Green Bay Packers. And that's what they've said. Is it not verbatim, but they say, it's our goal to beat the Green Bay Packers. That's what we want out of our head coach is to help us beat the Green Bay Packers. And he's done that once, and he hasn't done it since 2018. And in a lot of ways, it's been in demolishing fashion. So that's why I thought, honestly, there's a chance he gets canned on Monday. It didn't happen because they're not going to do it in the season. But it will likely it will happen in the year.
No,
I'm not
No,
even gonna
it won't happen in season, is what I mean.
Yes, but I'm not going to go back and forth anymore on this. He will get fired. He's gone. It's just the fact that we have to endure it for the rest of the year. Now, the other thing too about the offense that I wanted to bring up that made no sense is you were talking about the running game and stuff, and I agree with you. Like the running game is good, but too many people see it like this. Okay, you have a good running game, and that opens the deep balls. So what are we going to do? We're either going to run it or we're going to throw a deep ball. And it seems to me that this offense has become two-dimensional in a way where you're either doing that and you're throwing short routes and you're either trying the 40-yarder or the 50-yarder, and there's nothing intermediate. I mean, Justin Fields is one of, if not, he was the most accurate quarterback in college football in like the last 10 years and throws 10 to 20 yards. Yeah. How many times do you see 10 to 20 yard throws up the seam, 10 to 20 yard intermediate throws? It's like a boomer bust offense, it feels like. Yeah. And that's what they're trying. Like I watched Cowboys Patriots. Okay. I watched Mac Jones, and Pats fans have their gripes with Josh McDaniels at this point. Trust me, I've got some friends who are Pats fans who want some of Josh McDaniels' emails to get leaked. But I'm watching that game, and I'm seeing intermediate throws for Mac Jones with Jacoby Myers wide open in the middle of the field. 15 to 20 yards, bread and butter. Why am I not seeing those intermediate throws available for Justin Fields? And that's where it just doesn't make sense. He's exceptional at throwing to that area, and there's nothing to that area. So right. I mean, you know what I'm talking about though? Doesn't it feel a little boom and bust to you? I mean,
no, I agree.
And even when they do boom, it's not. I mean, the Bears are last in the league with receptions of 20 plus yards with 9. And last in the league with receptions of 40 plus yards with 1.
Yeah.
And last in the league with receptions for a first down. Like they're last in the league in a whole lot of things. And it just doesn't make sense why you wouldn't, tailor to the strengths of Justin Fields, just as they don't tailor to the strengths of any quarterbacks in their past either. Right. And get guys open in the middle of the field where he works best.
Which ironically is where the Darnell Mooney touchdown came from, right in the middle with no one around him.
Yeah,
in the end zone. Like we've seen it and we know it can happen. And to your point, like let Justin Fields use his talents. The throw to Allen Robinson on the touchdown drive, where, I mean, it took a little bit of a toe tap to get it, but you've seen what Justin Fields can do. He can put these guys into positions of success, putting these balls where only your receivers can get them. And then you do it once in a game and it feels like, all right, we hit our quota. All right, we did it. Cool. Great. We're done here. Like, what are we, an Amazon factory? We have a quota to hit on like receptions, on balls down the field. I mean, this is insane. Yeah. Jeffrey Glover in the comments, of all the screen passes we see so much from this damn offense, never to the running back.
Yeah,
never.
That's so valid.
Ironically, those are really across the league. Those are the only kinds of screens you really see work. So what are we doing here? The screen passes ever since last year have just irritated the hell out of me because it's always the same. It's 3 guys bunched up to block. There's no blocks because it's so obvious what you're going to do, bubble screen, and then you get 3 yards. And actually, there was one yesterday that went for like 8, and it felt like we should be having a party for an 8-yard screen that actually worked, kind of. Like, it's crazy. It's stale, to your point. I mean, you're doing either short passes or runs, or you're taking a huge shot down the field, and then your receivers are quitting. And your receivers are quitting on the route. So what's the point? God, it doesn't make sense. Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. We've been saying that for years.
Can we make that a shirt? Make it make sense.
Honestly, yes. Make it make sense with a photo of Matt Nagy or something. That's a good one.
With the clown hair.
Yeah, with the clown hair. There you go. That's put it in the works. Put it in the works. The halfback slip screen. If anyone has ever played Madden in their life, the halfback slip screen is one of the most useful plays that you can run. Okay, it works. All right, it works, and I don't think they've run one halfback slip screen all year. It's bubble screen. It's not even
this year. Ever.
It's never happened. I mean, I watched the Colts and the whoever was playing last Monday night, and like the Colts and the Ravens, like third play of the game, Colts run a slip screen, and Jonathan Taylor goes 76 yards for a touchdown, and I'm like, oh. Cool. I mean, I had Jonathan Taylor on my fantasy team, so I was like, let's go.
And you don't have him right now, but you literally have David Montgomery, who's known for breaking tackles. I know he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's been faster this year, but he literally does not go down on first contact. Seems like a guy you want to use on a screen pass. God, make it make sense. I'm getting angry again. Goodness gracious.
As you should. And okay, so I want to take a little bit of time to talk specifically about Justin Fields, okay? Because there's people, the casuals of the world, most notably Facebook, Bears Facebook. Apparently they're real bad. Apparently they're on the cut Justin Fields train already.
Who? What?
There are takes.
Seriously?
See the delusional Facebook people. There's always
That's
the delusional.
wild.
In every facet of life, there's delusional Facebook people.
That's true.
So let me like before we break down his abilities, all the people that are worried about Justin Fields, a lot of them who are worried want to compare him to the development of Mac Jones. And well, I'll tell you the fundamental difference between those two situations right now, and has nothing to do with the talent quarterback. Justin Fields on Sunday started his second ever game, knowing that he was chosen as QB1, okay? As selected by the coaches, knowing that he was the guy, started his second ever game under that. Okay. Mac Jones yesterday started his sixth game, knowing he was the surefire QB1 as selected by his coaches. Additionally, had a majority of training camp, if not more than that. Had the coaches been telling him all along that they were going to cut Cam Newton and keep him as the quarterback one, he's had months, including training camp and 6 games. Justin's had 2 weeks. Although Nagy eventually came to the right decision, okay, a little bit of kudos for finally coming to your senses about making him the starter. Do not undermine the damage that the postponement of that decision has had on his overall development and the expedition of his development. And when you have to take that in consideration when you make those comparisons between him and Mac Jones right now, because it's completely different. This is the second week he's known he's QB1 with full faith behind him in the organization, with full reps with the starters. That's why the curve is delayed. That's why there's a greater learning curve, because he hasn't had the same amount of time. There's other things as well, but I think that's the first thing that I have to address when there's the absurd people in the world who are legitimately concerned about Justin Fields as the franchise quarterback of the Chicago Bears. Think about that before you think about everything else.
Well, and I said this a couple weeks ago. It was either last week or the week before, but everyone wants Justin Fields to be Justin Herbert. It's not going to happen. It's just not. And then everyone wants.
It's not going to happen, but not because of Justin Fields, because of the situation that he's in.
But also,
make that clear.
And Justin Herbert, I mean, it was insane. He set records, literally. So you can't compare the two things. And obviously, I know the Chargers coaching situation wasn't great last year, but I mean, the Bears has been unbelievable. I mean, either worse than that level or on that level.
Worse,
and it's just been bad. So you can't have that. I mean, the thing that I think you have to look at, like, rookie quarterbacks aren't always great out of the gate. That's why they're rookies. Sometimes it takes a little bit. Look at Josh Allen. A couple of years ago, people in Buffalo wanted Josh Allen cut. Now, I think if you brought that up, they'd scream laugh in your face.
Yeah, they would.
I mean, Josh Allen, there was a legitimate concern about his interception rate and taking care of the football, and if he was actually a true passer. If he could ever get the arm talent under control. And now look where we're at. He's leading probably the best team in football, and he was really, really good last year. So sometimes it takes some time. Obviously, the coaching is going to have an effect on that. I do not believe that Justin Fields has the best coach to help him reach his potential. I think we all believe that. I don't think that's a hot take, but it's not going to happen right away. He's not going to be, all pro right away. Do we think he can be that eventually? Yes. Jeffrey, again, in the comments, killing it today, Jeffrey. Love you. Peyton Manning, awful his rookie year. Didn't he lead the league in interceptions his rookie year? And now he's a Hall of Famer. And now we're wondering where he is on Monday night because we miss him on the broadcast. Now people love, no progress in the NFL is not linear. There's not a cookie cutter way to do it. It takes time.
That's a good point.
That's just the way. It's more frustrating because these are these are winnable games. Yesterday specifically, and you feel like your coach isn't helping you out. He's not, but that's what makes it more frustrating. But yeah, I mean, if you're commenting cut Justin Fields, need you to move to an open field and never come back, because we don't need you. That's an insane take. Even for Facebook, that's an insane take. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you're going to have to be patient with Justin Fields, and you're going to have to wait until you have someone who can help, utilize his abilities and help him reach his potential. You're probably not going to get it till next year. So you do what you can for now. There is something though, after a time, we have to stop saying, oh, well, this is Justin Fields so-and-so start. This is just, it's, it's
Yes,
been
right.
it's been a couple months now. After a time, we have to stop using that excuse. For a time, it was true. Now, I mean, he's on his fourth start now, going into his fifth. I know that the situations haven't been great, and I know you're right. This is his second start as the unquestioned guy, but we can't keep using that forever. I think if you want to defend Justin Fields, use what I just said, about the linearity and the lack thereof. I don't even know if linearity is a word, but you get what I'm saying.
It sounded
the lack
really
thereof
good though.
Of his progress. So use that. Like we can't keep hiding behind this. Oh, well, it's only a second real start. We can't use that because then you feel like you're grasping at straws and people are going to poke holes in that argument. Use something stronger. And I think there are stronger arguments. I do think Justin Fields is not in the best position right now. Of course not. Nobody is. I think if you put Tom Brady in that situation, wouldn't be a great situation. No matter who you put in a Bears uniform right now, they're not going to have a great time. Will it be better if it was Josh Allen or Tom Brady or Herbert or whoever? Yeah, probably would be a little better. You're dealing with a rookie quarterback. There's going to be bumps and bruises. We said that before the season even started. There were going to be bumps and bruises. You would just have to live with them. Now, if Justin Fields had made that 4th and 26 throw, we'd be celebrating probably. And we'd be like, all right, you had the interception, but you also got that awesome throw. You're still seeing the highs in these games, though. It hasn't been low, 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 low. You've gotten the mix like we expected. So you just kind of got to live with it. It's just frustrating because you're not getting the support from the coaching staff, from the game calling, from the game planning. And that's what makes those lows, and that's what makes it feels like the peaks and valleys. That's what makes the valleys hurt more because you're not getting as many peaks. You're getting 1 or 2 a game. You feel like with Justin Fields' talent, you should be getting way more, but you're not. And it sucks. But, hopefully, fingers crossed, you survive this gauntlet that you're about to go through on the schedule, and then you get a couple more highs, and then you can maybe hopefully play, the Vikings and the Lions, and you get those highs a little bit more, but maybe you probably don't. So, yeah, I mean, it's tough. You're in a tough spot. I mean, you're still 500. You're still second in the division, but this schedule isn't doing you favors. And I mean, we'll talk about it more on Wednesday in the preview episode, but I mean, you're about to go through the Bucks, the Niners, the Steelers, the Ravens. And then, yeah, sure, you get a break with the Lions, but then you have the Cardinals and the Packers again. So, I mean, over this, you're at 500 right now. For these next 7 games, we'll include the Lions game in there just for funsies. I mean, after these 7 games, I mean, what you got to hope you're still – I'll be happy if you're 1 game under 500 after this gauntlet.
And that's probably what they will be.
If you go 3-4 after this, I'm happy.
That would as long as you don't, derail and go off. And, at some point the Cardinals are going to lose some games and that game is going to look a little bit more winnable than it is now.
I think the winnable games are the Niners, Steelers, and Lions.
Yes, obviously that is the case. Just going back to Justin Fields real quick, when you talk about the peaks and the valleys and the lows and the highs, it's not from a pure quantitative standpoint, meaning, he had 4 lows today and 4 highs. Right, I think it's the way you have to evaluate it, meaning the highs are really, really good and the lows aren't really anything that concern me. Like they're fixable things. They're fixed exactly. When you looked at the lows for Mitch Trubisky, there was a fundamental issue in his capability to read defenses and his accuracy at times. And those things were those things were really evident. When I look at Justin Fields' lows, I say, okay, he probably shouldn't have rolled out. He's sometimes rolling out too quickly. He's not staying in the pocket long enough sometimes. Those are things that you can easily fix. He's making, some interesting decisions here and there. Those are all things that you can go back and look at on tape and say, okay, we'll fix that by next week. It's nothing fundamental where you are concerned about his ability to play that position, going forward. So that's to me how I want to evaluate that. So everyone who says, the lows and the highs, the high than average, and the lows are a heck of a lot higher than the average. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, let's go back to that record in that gauntlet that you just referenced. We have N.A. Stradamus. Doesn't everyone want the season to tank to get Nagy out? I just don't see him developing talent. Every year we get this take. Every single year you get the should we tank to ensure Nagy gets out?
I said it last year.
And in hindsight, maybe, right? In hindsight, it's always 2020. And if you replay that situation last year, I'm sure, if you asked him, hey, you can either make the playoffs and lose to the Saints, or you could tank, get a higher draft pick, and lose Nagy, 99% of people you would take the latter. But I still would advise against that, because especially now with a rookie quarterback, that differs. That differs when you talk about a quarterback's confidence, when you talk about, what he's building with the organization. A tank doesn't achieve much, in my opinion. At this point, regardless of what happens, Matt Nagy is out as head coach. I'm all in on that.
Ooh,
now.
I don't know about that.
I said that. No, I was wrong. I said the opposite of that after the Raiders game. I said, you know what? If they win out now, or if they win enough games to make the playoffs and they look good enough, he'll stay. After that loss to the Packers, everything else included, I'm officially at this point going forward saying he is officially out regardless of what happens. And Jeffrey says we need to fire Nagy now. Why wait? Because they won't fire a coach in season, but it will happen at the end of the year. I'll put a bet on it. There's got to be odds at some sports book for it, and I'll lock in $100 on it. I will, because he's gone. So don't worry about.
He's got to be the favorite to be the first coach fired.
He was favored after week 2.
Yeah,
he was favored after week 2, but Urban Meyer probably shot up that list after his activities. But yeah, look, shit, you're not confident Nagy's a long-term solution. Like, obviously,
nobody
and that's
is.
not a knock at Nostradamus. It's just like, yeah, exactly. No, nobody is. But again, like you do talk about the things that encourage going forward. Like, one of those things, could be wins, and just tanking doesn't do anything for you. I don't want to hear that take, because I know, like Nostradamus, Nostradamus, whatever his name is on the YouTube chat.
I do need to know more about that name. That's
I do need to know more about that too. It is an interesting choice. That take will come up the more they lose games.
Yeah.
That take will for sure be, a topic of conversation among the Bears fan community. Do not just disregard it. Try to win football games. He's gone regardless. That's my take.
Yeah, I'll stick with this. I think even if you, it's just completely derailed my thought. I think if you still, like I said earlier in the show, like, I think that if you can go 9-8, I think, but if you get swept by the Packers again, I do think there's a real chance he gets fired. Because of this, I've said it on the show before. I do think because of this ownership and that the way they act, they might. Now, there's always a chance that they won't fire, always, because that's just how they are, and it's so frustrating. But yeah, I mean, we need to get rid of the take that, because yes, he does need to be fired during the season. They won't do it though. They never have. They never will. That's not how they operate. George McCaskey's in his office probably pre-writing the apology letters to Bears fans when he starts getting hate mail like he did last offseason. But that's just not how they operate. I think there's a chance that if he has a winning record but gets swept by the Packers, he gets fired. Now, if you split with the Packers somehow, if you win the next game against them and you have a winning record, I think that he gets brought back. It was just, I don't know. This ownership just kills me. But I mean, good point, Jeffrey. You're like 5 for 5 today, man. Lovie Smith was fired after a 10-6 season because they were just sick of, the lack of ability to get to the playoffs, the lack of success against the Packers. So, I guess I think if you go 9-8,
Jake,
and you miss the playoffs and you get swept by the Packers, he's gone. I would agree with that. But yeah, Phillips is the worst. I've said that on this show forever. He sucks. But
stooge is the word that you use for him.
Big fat stooge, clown. The worst. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. It's really frustrating. And against the Bucs, what are we going to consider? Let's just say, let's say you don't win. What's going to be considered a successful game against the Bucs? You're not going to win. So what do you consider a successful game against the Bucs?
Well, the question I have for you is, like you said last week on the prediction show, that the Bears were going to lose, and you were correct on that. You said they were going to lose 28-21, but you said we were going to walk away feeling encouraged. For you, what would that have been, and did we meet that? And then I'll use your answer to that too.
No, did
yeah. So what would have met that though? Because 21 points still isn't anything exceptional.
Right. I think
Well-
if you just had like, I mean, because the reason I'm discouraged walking away from this game is because the game calling was just complete shit. Like it just completely fell apart. All the progress that you made against the Lions and the Raiders, because I mean, I sat here in this chair in my silly little room in this silly little city. Is that just kidding? It's not a silly little city. It's a great city, Finisher City. But regardless, like I sat here and I said, okay, well, you're seeing, you have to look for it, but you're seeing the strides and you're seeing more involvement from more guys and you're taking the baby steps and it's part of the progress that you want. But that all went out the door. That all went straight to hell last night. Yeah, okay. Allen Robinson was your leading receiver finally. Still wasn't a great statistical day for him. Okay, yeah, Cole Kmet was more involved, but not a great day for him. Like Justin Fields was more active on the ground, I guess, but I don't know.
Nothing.
Yeah,
Khalil Herbert's the only thing that you walked away legitimately encouraged about in that game.
Sure,
Like,
yeah, I
legitimately.
would agree with that. I think the offensive line still played decently. I mean, they've bounced back after that Cleveland game. We thought we were in for a long year with the offensive line. They've played way better. But, man, like, it's just – okay, so to answer the question, I guess, my own question of what to walk away, yeah, I mean, comments, yeah, I guess if you lose by a single possession, I mean, I guess
Against Tampa Bay?
I guess if you know what, if I go against Tampa Bay, if the play calling goes back to, if it improves and it's very clear that it's mostly laser and Nagy does not have a hand in this game plan, then I'll be encouraged and I'll say, okay, maybe you can beat the Niners in 2 weeks. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, you make a great point. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's to the Justin Fields show. Just continue to make these throws that impress us and show us what can possibly be in the future. And by the future, I mean 2022 and forward, because I mean, I just don't see a light at the end of the tunnel right now, especially considering this gauntlet that you're about to go to. I don't have a problem with Mustapher. I think he's fine.
Yeah,
I think considering what he is, an undrafted free agent, like you're really happy with that. I think considering what Mustapher is, he's an undrafted guy. I think he's played fine. I like. You have to consider this offensive line. Like, the thing is, the guys you paid, Daniels and Whitehair, have still been exceptional. So I'll take that. I guess you're dealing with a backup right tackle. You're dealing with a guy who's basically probably on AARP and Jason Peters on the left tackle. I'll take it. Again, it's like it's so stupid. It's like it's the scope of it's like Bears goggles. Like you have to put on Bears goggles when you're evaluating talent on the Chicago Bears. Like all things considered, I guess, like consider he's an undrafted free agent from last year. All right, cool. All right, consider that you're on a backup right tackle. All right, yeah, I guess. Consider that you have a geriatric at left tackle. All right, cool, I guess. Like you grade the O-line on a curve, basically. You grade everyone on a curve, considering the coaching staff, considering who you have.
1,000%.
Like, that's what you have to do. We grade Justin Fields on a curve of being a rookie and having a head coach who's an idiot. Like
you have to grade everyone on a curve.
That's all you can do. Because that's the position we've been put in. You're grading everyone on a curve because that's unfortunately the situation. Because you don't have a Staley, you don't have a McDermott, you don't have an Arians, a Belichick, a Harbaugh. Like you have an idiot. Like that's what you have, and so it's oh god. But that's the thing. Settling for a 7th round pick with Leno, like Nate, we got Leno and we let him go for it. We're mad that Leno's gone. Like it's not an argument. Because we were right. It was the correct stance. And the Bears were on the other side. I'm sorry. I know I'm yelling at you, but like, we're right.
Go crazy. Go crazy.
It's Mustapher sucks and we have better personnel. Who? Alex Bars? Undrafted
Yeah, who the
guy.
heck is, who
do you want there?
Do we have? That's all we have.
Penny Sewell is not walking through that door.
No.
Like
Penny Sewell also had not been very good.
It's funny. It's very funny that it's not funny. It's sad. It's week 6. You're 3-3, and this is where we're at already. We're already mad at a guy who's an undrafted free agent at center.
Right.
We're already playing the blame game. It's week 6. You're 500.
Exactly.
We're already here.
Exactly.
Seriously, guys. We're already
Yeah,
here?
I mean, it was we were here
Oh,
before
make
the
it make
year
sense.
started, Jake. We were here before the year started. Let's be honest. I mean, we were here since last January.
I
We've
guess,
been
but,
here
like,
for years.
It's like,
I,
okay, and I know I get it. People get bored of attacking Nagy over and over again. Fine, that's great. But, like, Sam Mustafer's who we're going to be mad at. Like, I mean, it's become very
Mustafer's the problem. We
Yeah,
figured it
like,
out. We
it's very
debunked the
clear.
Bears.
I get it. James Daniels and Cody Whitehair can play center, but we've established that their best positions are guard.
Yes.
So even if you
You're
move
not
them,
changing anything there.
you're getting worse, if anything, because then you're
The
just creating
offensive
another.
line has been fine.
Then and I think they've played well. Like I
They
think
haven't been good enough, but they've been fine.
sure, like but like if you move Whitehair to center and you put Bars in at guard, you're creating the same problem. Like you're not
Right.
solving
It's
anything
not,
that
you're
way.
not doing anything.
What do you hope to accomplish?
You're making a lateral move.
Exactly. It's a lateral move. That's the perfect way of putting it.
It's just so frustrating. Like this goes, when you go back to the curve thing, because I love how that was brought up. Is everything's graded on a curve, and this is true for every position. And like
because no, you need a strong center. That was funny.
Donald McKendry in the chat.
I'm choosing to read it that way. No, you need a strong center.
No, you need it. Yeah,
that's how I'm choosing to read it, even if that's not how it was meant. Anyway,
I mean, like, I just look at positions across the roster, and again, sound like a fucking broken record here, but it's true. Like, and someone brought this up, and I didn't even think about it. I've talked about this before, though. Jameer Byrd last year had 600 yards, which isn't a whole lot, but that was a New England offense that had no sense of identity last year. It was allergic to throwing the football with Cam Newton, and he's on pace. Guess how many yards he's on pace for this year, Jake? Guess how many yards he's on pace for to have at the end of the year? Take a random guess, and if you get it, I'll buy you a few beers or something at the bar. Take a guess. 51, Jake. 51 yards. That's what he's going to get. As of today, October 18th, he's on pace to get 51 yards. Okay? Come on. What the hell are we doing here, man? I mean, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, this is probably the most we've cursed on the show as well, and rightfully so.
I don't know. The last season's Packers loss that we went on for like 2 hours, basically. That was bad. That one was pretty bad too.
Was bad. That was the longest episode we've ever had.
I hate that the Packers do this to us time and time again. It's always the Packers that get us the most upset,
as it should be. I mean, that's the team it's the team that makes you so aggravated, man. I had a terrible day yesterday, dude. Like what kind of? No, I'm serious. Like it just ruins your day. Like I could have had done something really fun, like I don't know, like go hang out with friends or something. Yeah, I still would have felt terrible. Like I felt horrible. Like I'm sitting in bed just thinking about like Aaron Rodgers yelling at a crowd saying we own you. I mean, no, seriously. Like our guy Chris Nano, who used to be on the show, said he legitimately had nightmares about Aaron Rodgers for years.
I was literally thinking about that yesterday. Shout out Chris. I was literally thinking about that quote yesterday.
Shout out Chris. 100%. It's not gonna change. It's not until you change this staff, until you get things fixed. You're gonna feel this way. You're gonna have the nightmares, and they're gonna come back. And next week you might have nightmares of Tom Brady. Like it's and the week after you might have nightmares of whoever they play the week after. The Niners? Yeah, you won't have any nightmares from them. Trey Lance,
you'll have nightmares of Kyle Shanahan just absolutely making your coach look worse.
Exactly. And that's what's so. Imagine having nightmares about a coach over, it's just so comical, man. I'm gonna go back to my notes. We have like 2 minutes. I want to see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I wrote down so many freaking notes, and I don't know if I've gotten to it all.
You know what's going to happen? This stupid ass team, they're going to beat Tampa again. And we're going to come on this silly little show, and we're going to say, all right, you're 4-3. You just showed you could beat a championship contender. We're back. Oh, it's absolutely going to happen because that's what this team does.
And then it's going to happen.
God.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Watch, you're going to rip off 3 straight against the Bucks. And then the Niners, because the Niners are average. And then the Steelers, because the Steelers also, like, they're very beatable on Monday Night Football. Oh, you're going to have a 3-game win streak on Monday Night Football, and
Uh,
we're gonna come on here, and then we're just gonna get our hearts broken again.
No, here's what's going to happen. They're going to lose against Tampa, but then they're going to win the next two, and then they're going to be 5-4, and you'll be like, okay, but like we're 5-4, and like this is where we were at last year, and like we might have a shot, and then we're going to go to Baltimore and get the our break speed off of us by Lamar Jackson running for 1,000 yards, and like. I really wasn't a believer in the Ravens until I saw what they did to the Chargers yesterday. I mean, I don't know what the hell happened there. That was incredible. But yeah, Jake, you're right. At some point throughout the rest of the year, I know we got to get off this stupid show. They're gonna bring us back. They're going to.
Oh yeah,
like
they're gonna pull us.
It happens every fucking year. We went on a 6-game losing streak last year, Jake, and they reeled us back in. And partially, to the credit of the NFL for adding a 7th playoff team, like you're gonna be in the mix. Like if the season ended today, I think they'd still be in the playoffs, if not, just at the edge of it, because they're tied with Minnesota now and Carolina. They have the same record as teams that are at the 6 and 7 seed. You're gonna be in it. Whether you're below 500 or at 500 around week 9 or 10, you're going to be in it because of the new playoff format. So you're naturally going to get reeled back in, and you're going to get your heart broken again. One more thing. This is what I had in my notes. The trade deadline is slowly approaching. Slowly, it's I think 2 weeks away now, 2.5. Double check for me real quick. Allen Robinson is not going to be here after the trade deadline. And I'd put $1 million that Allen Robinson will be on the Baltimore Ravens after the trade deadline. This is the Ravens team that is 5-1 now. They're like, okay, you know what? This is the year we're supposed to make the Super Bowl push. We've beaten Super Bowl contending teams. We can do it. Rashad Bateman's on IR. Marquise Brown is playing well. We need another guy. Trade Allen Robinson. Give us some draft capital back. And, that's nothing against Allen Robinson. I just think that's really, really likely to happen, especially given the contract negotiations. That's the last thing I had in my notes that I want to make sure I said, because especially after this week, and there's people who have their thoughts about Allen Robinson. Obviously, Baltimore's been a spot that people have talked about for him in years past. It just hasn't happened. This is the perfect timing for it to happen. The Bears can get a little bit of draft capital out of it. Maybe even get Rashad Bateman back for it. I mean, I don't know. Like, that would probably be a lofty ask, but they would get, I don't know if they'd get a first rounder at this rate, but they'd get high draft capital for it. You need it. You always need it. And if you look at the time when the trade deadline comes around and you're 3-5, or you're even, nothing encouraging, whether you are encouraging or not, I would not be surprised. I'll make it a take that they trade Allen Robinson to the Ravens.
That's fair. And the Ravens have 9 picks in the top 4 rounds in 2022. So
there's lovely. Wow.
There's something to
wow.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
I like that.
That's not bad.
Give us some of those.
That's a take. I like that. Watch. We're gonna get to week 13. The last 4 games: Vikings, Seahawks, Giants, Vikings. We're gonna get there, and this is gonna be a 6 and 7 team, and they're gonna win 3 out of 4 or 4 straight, and they're gonna be 10 and 7 or 9 and 8, and they're gonna sneak in, and then here's where we're gonna be. Crazy. Can't wait. Great. Awesome. Oh God.
Don't get me wrong. Like I
watch this be an exact replica. You're about to get absolutely pummeled in this gauntlet that you're about to have. You probably won't go on a 6-game win streak again or losing streak again.
Yeah.
But you'll probably go, there's a real possibility you go 1-5 or 2-4 and see what happens.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna get to that last 4 weeks with very winnable schedule, and you're gonna finish with a winning record and maybe even make the playoffs. Oh man. Twice against the Vikings.
Don't get me wrong real quick before we close out. Like, if that happened, I'd still be happy. I like to see my team in the playoffs. I would be. I'm not gonna fucking lie to you and tell you that when that happens, I'll be losing my marbles on Instagram. And
that also means that Justin Fields will have played, will have progressed within the season.
Right.
A lot.
And
so
if you give your rookie quarterback a playoff experience in his first year, like you're ahead of the curve. Don McKendry says we call that getting naggied.
Yeah.
We're all gonna get naggied.
That's a good tagline for that.
I gotta say, man, chat
so
today popping, dude. Chat today.
Poppin'. Chat was great today. No. All right. So that's the goal, people. The new goal for the season. Get to week 13 with that 6 and 7.
That's
get
it.
6
Just
and
get
7.
get to 6 and 7, and you're in. You're in. That's. We're gonna make a post. We're gonna tell the Chicago Bears social team to make a post after they're 6 and 7 to say clinched, playoff berth clinched. We're in. We're in, and then it's the graphic with Justin Fields and Mac, and we're in. I 6 and 7, fellas. That's what gets us
folks.
there.
Yeah, all right, folks. We just got to make it to week 13. All right, I think that's a good note to end this on. This has been Bears Nation Podcast. Thank you to everyone who watched and listened and commented. We appreciate you guys very, very much. You guys are the best. We love talking with you. We'll be back on Wednesday to break down the Bucs game, for better or for worse, but we'll be here. We hope you will be too. And until then, bear down.
Bear down.
Thank you.